Welcome to episode 27 and my last episode of our Perigee Podcast with my super special guest, Chief John B9 Bentivegna. I do think there should be handles so that we could arm wrestle, even though I know that I would win. But
I had my Wheaties this morning.
did you? Wheaties gonna...
I hope so.
Would that put you over the top?
I will take any advantage I can get.
Literally. It's my wife's favorite movie, by the way. Over the Top. You ever see it? Sly Stallone back in the day?
Oh,
Arm
my
wrestling
God,
movie?
yes.
Yeah, Over the Top.
Yeah, it wasn't like Dolly Parton or somebody in that as well?
I don't know.
Oh,
But
yes.
Rachel loves it.
I do remember that.
I don't know why, but apparently I should have taken up arm wrestling. But anyway, so I think the kind of the intent today, the special treat, is you and me sitting here, not arm wrestling, but talking about kind of what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks, and then what's going to happen after that for everyone else but me, because we know what I'll be doing. I'll be doing nothing.
You'll be fishing.
I'll probably be fishing. I got a new kayak, so I'm pretty excited about fishing. But anyway, it's pretty neat to be here and kind of, for the last time, tell Guardians I appreciate them, and for the first time say welcome to my successor, the Chief Master Sergeant of the Space Force, soon to be John Bentivegna.
Yeah, 15 September. It's coming up fast.
So why don't you start with telling us who you are?
So this is, talking about this is my very first podcast. I've never done one before. So I'm a little...
Some people would say neither have I. So you're good.
But I appreciate, getting together, had opportunity today to kind of talk to you and talk to our Guardians and, everyone's out there, our fan base, if you will. But who am I? So, John Bentivegna. I'm just a kid from Jersey City, New Jersey. I just celebrated actually my 29th year in service last week. So 29 years, and I re-enlisted on Saturday, as a matter of fact, for the position. My very last re-enlistment.
That's awesome.
So it was really cool. I had a very young second lieutenant who just commissioned do that for me. So it was a very meaningful ceremony for me.
Who was it?
Lieutenant Josephine Freeman. She's an intern here and working the COO with us. So she's here in the Pentagon hanging out before she goes to school to be a 13 Sierra. And when I had a chance to meet her, when she came into the office before I started the transition, I said, "Hey, you're a brand new Guardian. How would you like to help me out? And I'd be honored if you can re-enlist me."
Was she nervous?
So her husband is also an Air Force officer, and he told me after the ceremony that he has probably re-enlisted 55 times taken the oath of enlistment 55 times over the last couple of weeks as she's been preparing. But she was phenomenal. It's a really good job.
That's awesome.
Yep. And she gave me my very first, the silver dollar, usually lieutenants. So she had given some out when she commissioned, but she said, "This is my first re-enlistment." And she honored me by giving me one of her silver dollars. I had never received one before. So.
Yeah, I got one just recently too. I had no idea it was a thing. It was a secret. And
it's pretty cool.
It was a really cool thing.
Yeah. But I was a little embarrassed because I said, "Well, this is only $1." She's like, "No, Chief, it's costs more than $1." I said, "Oh, okay, I won't use it."
Did she tell you not to sell it on eBay?
Yes, she did.
Yeah,
she said. So I said, "It will be in my office."
Thanks, LT. Thanks for re-enlisting. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to retire if you didn't re-enlist. So
yeah,
she's actually enabling.
She is
everything.
She is.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But so it's that I'm just a kid from New Jersey and 29 years married to Kathy. Kathy and I were married before I even joined the service. We got married in May and I went to basic training in August. So Kathy sent me on my way. She said, "You got to make something yourself.
She was like, I'll marry you if."
That's right. If.
You got to turn this stuff around.
Yeah. Yeah. So I kid to all of the senior leaders that, Kathy really outranks everyone. She has time and grade over anybody. So I'll have to have that conversation specifically with General Saltzman, but General Burt, my current boss, knows that. But Kathy was there at the reenlistment. So Kathy and I have been doing this for a while. We have 2 children, Caitlin and Neil, both in Colorado. As you know, you may have known, I spent a lot of time in Colorado as a space operator.
It's funny because my son is in New Jersey.
Really?
Yeah, Gabriel's up in New Jersey, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to go back to visit, but I don't know if I'd want to live in Jersey again.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm supposed to drive through there this weekend, and I'm like, is it safe enough for me to stop and
just watch your hubcaps? Yeah, keep your doors locked.
I'm taking the trout bus through, so I'm probably not going to stop.
I think I'm making Andy mad with those comments because he's from Jersey too. But yeah, so Kath and I, empty nesters, the kids are in Colorado, and I'll be telling you, honest, we are really excited about this next opportunity that we have, to kind of join with General Salzman and Miss Jennifer and continue to kind of care for our guardians and the airmen that are supporting the Space Force. As we had through the interview process, which I think we might talk about later, this was never kind of in my vision, right, to kind of do this. But when the opportunity came up and we had the conversation, I said, hey, I think I still have something to kind of contribute and, to have an opportunity to team up and continue to go. Kath and I are really excited for where we're going to go next.
Yeah. So, you've been there from the beginning. You and I known each other for a minute now.
Yeah.
But you've been here like the whole time. And so I think that there's goodness in that you don't got to get caught up on stuff. And you don't even need you could help me write the Federalist Papers for the Space Force. You were in all those initial conversations with us, certainly on the enlisted side, on the enlisted things that we were doing. And so I think it's important. I've been thinking a lot about this, is that, we can look at what we've done. You can pick up the Guardian Ideal, you can pick up the Guardian Spirit, you can look at, you can see the ranks, you can look at the patches, but all of the stuff behind that, like how many people know those things and how well are we doing kind of telling those stories and passing that stuff on. It's really cool for me, for instance, that I know at least at the our senior NCO Academy graduations, NCO Academy graduations, that they are toasting with plastic cups, which is a big deal to me, that cool story. But how many other stories, don't people know? So I think, there's a journal on the desk in the office, and I hope that you continue to kind of write your thoughts down. And I always tell people it's part continuity book, part journal, part history, part rant, therapy, write whatever you want in it. But I think one day, it's a guest log too, right? Somebody comes in the office and they write, and in 15 years, somebody reads through that and goes, oh, this is what they were thinking on the September 18th, the first Monday after you're in the seat. Like, this is what it was like in the office. I think those stories are important. And so, that's cool. So let's talk about the process. I think we've talked about it a little bit before. There's real nice articles on it and stuff, but walk me through from your perspective. So the call out goes out and I say, hey, if you're interested, raise your hand and then go. Now over to you. What happens after that?
So, Kath and I, like a lot of us have to do, right? This is a family affair. So Kath and I sat down and talked about it, and Kathy was supportive of me kind of throwing my name into the hat, if you will. But as the discussion amongst us came out and I saw my teammates who were throwing their names in the hat, I'm like, man, there's some phenomenal talent, right? Leaders who I would follow as a guardian if they became Chief Master Sergeant of the Space Force. And, I had a little discussion. I had a little bit of a, hey, maybe it's better off, right, that someone else kind of take that mantle and do that, because they're just phenomenal human beings, right? And they display, right? They are the guardian ideal. And so I was hesitant for a little bit. But then I look back at, I had some mentorship many years ago by another chief when I was still an airman, and talked about that especially as chiefs, to self-eliminate for opportunities is not really our job, right? Our job is as chiefs to present a slate of talent to senior leaders to allow them to make the decision that they need to make. And that, that's not something necessarily that we should do. So I continued on, and I said, okay, I'm going to go through it. And like many things that were growing and kind of writing it as we're executing it, the process was intriguing to me. A little unclear as we kind of working through it. I was a little nervous when we talked about, writing papers and doing interviews, and, because we had never done it before, I wasn't too sure what to expect. But at the end of it, I think after actually going through the process with my teammates, really gave me a significant insight to what it means to be the Chief Master Sergeant of Space Force. When you're standing there doing a mock congressional testimony and you get the binder like the day or two before, and like, this is your opportunity to advocate for the families and for guardians. What you say will impact whether or not we get resources, whether we get advocacy. That's a lot to kind of carry. And I knew those were things that the senior list advisors for all the services do, but didn't really have an appreciation until I was on the spot with the spotlight on me, sitting there in front of the camera with the mock and kind of walking through that. The other thing too, I would say, which was a little different, I think, in the process than other services do. The five of us, the chiefs, we did it as a team.
Yeah.
Like if you were to go and you talk about, little things in history, and, that the night that we got all the binders and said we had to start prepping for discussion, we're sitting in the lobby of lodging on Andrews Air Force Base, going through our binders, highlighting, say, hey, did you read in tab 6? What do you think about this? And we may make sure we remember that. But really rooting for one another going through, and was really, when you talk about connection, that's really what it was like. Because when I talked to some of my peers in other services, they thought it was very odd. Like, sometimes you don't even know who else is competing for a senior level job like that. But that was not the approach we took. And I think it was the right approach.
Yeah, it was, when I told the room, so, we did this panel, as you know, I think everybody kind of knows, but so there's a panel of general officers and some other senior executive service and my counterparts from different service. There was really senior folks in the room. And when I told them that you guys were doing group study, the looks on their faces it was so memorable, and I was so happy with, as dude, this, like, I am all about process.
Yeah.
And I was so proud of the process. I'm like, this is what it's supposed to be like. We should not be pitted against one another ever.
Yeah.
Like, good teams don't do that. Good teams have friendly competition. You're competing against each other because you're pushing each other to get better.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be passive. You don't want to, you're not just sitting back, like, letting nothing happen, and you're not letting other people, carry you along.
Yeah.
But you can't be pitted against. You can't. If a system pits you against your teammates, that team is only going to be so strong. Like, it's only a matter of time before it breaks down.
That's right.
And so when watching all of that was it was super cool, and I was really kind of excited to see you guys embrace that. It didn't surprise me at all, but we didn't prompt it. Nobody said, right? It was just, hey, this is the stuff.
Yeah.
You guys do, you take it and do what you wanted. But yeah, I'll never forget when I said, oh yeah, like, somebody left the room. The first person that got interviewed left the room. And I said, oh, they're going back.
Yeah.
They're all in the same room together, and they're probably going back to tell them every question you just asked. And he said, what? No way. And I'm like, yeah, like, that's how G's roll. Like, this is truth. Like, this is who we're supposed to be. And so, it was pretty cool. You were worried about the process. Well, maybe not worried, but you called me too, and you said, is this necessary? Like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I don't know if it's necessary. It may not add value, but I think that this will open up the aperture so that we can let people sort of fairly compete. And if your experiences give you advantage, then it'll come out in the process. And I think, going through it, I think that all, like, you clearly just, I don't know if I've told you this or not, but you had clearly taken it all very seriously and prepped very, very well. Like you really knew kind of what had been handed to you and where we were. And I think a lot of kind of your day-to-day life had set you up for that as well. But the truth is how fast you can prep, how well you absorb the information, how you contextualize it against everything else we're doing, like all those things. It's really important. You know, they just yesterday I got a picture from Chief Apodaca out at Space Base Delta One. They broke ground at Schriever on the fitness center. So talk about advocating in Congress and stuff. That was one of the first things that we did. Was we got with our teammates across the river, and we got money to put up that fitness center because it's important. And so they broke ground, and hopefully, I don't know, year from now they'll be cutting a ribbon. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
That'll be great. I mean, you know, I lived on Schriever I was assigned there several times and lived there for a while with Kathy when I was a command chief. So, you know, when you talk about the sheer number, right, of guardians that are working 24 hours a day there, right, is kind of the hub for a lot of that. We talk about, you know, continuous fitness, right, as such an important part of life. Having that facility is going to be life-changing.
Yeah, the last time we were out there a couple of weeks ago, and I said, somebody needs to videotape in the best weather, like best conditions, just videotape in real time the drive from Peterson to Schriever and then post it on YouTube. And literally no one would watch it till the end. Like, it's the longest 8 miles or whatever.
That's right.
On Earth. And I think it's easy to say, oh, well, it's just all one base. Like, they can just, no.
Nope.
And so it's good to have things, and hopefully we continue to build it up out there. So so that's you. What do you do when you're not at work?
So, you know, I've been taking some leave. I have some use or lose, right? We never want to give back leave. That's important. But also the opportunity to kind of take a knee before 15th September.
I call it use or you're a loser leave. Like, why aren't you taking leave? Like, your health needs it, right? Like, you have to take vacation.
That's right. And your family deserves it.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
Your family and friends deserve it. So I've been taking some leave, and you know, I can't run as much as I used to anymore to kind of stay physically fit. And really, it
you're
helps.
Old?
It's yes. Back when I had hair, I would run all the time. So
maybe that's what happened.
That's right.
Running's bad for your follicles.
That's right. But you know, I do a lot of bike rides. So the weather's been great in Virginia the last couple of days. So I've been out taking my road bike. I guess I did my fat tire bike. But you know, Kath and I, we try to get out whenever we can, right? I try to in the morning, on the weekends, I might check a couple of emails. But you know, I know there's time I have to dedicate to us and for me to take a knee. So we like to go out and do bike rides. You know, we're also we enjoy wine, and you know, Northern Virginia wine area is pretty good where we are in Loudoun County. So we try to get out of the house as much as we can.
Is it
to
really
do things together?
Is it good, or is it like good in the context of the Northeast? Like, because I know there's a lot of vineyards.
Yeah.
But I'm not really a wine guy. I'm kind of curious. Like, is it good? Is it
So,
California good? Is it south of Spain good? Is it?
So when you're in the environment, sitting in a beautiful vineyard, and they have some music playing in the background, it is some of the best wine I've ever had. But I usually don't bring a bottle home.
Yeah, that's fair.
But that's the thing, right? You go out there because of the environment, right?
Yeah.
The people are so nice and friendly, right? They really take pride in the tasting rooms and the land that they have out there and the entertainment that they bring in, and that's where Kath and I like to get out there. Plus, we could bring the dogs with us. They're all very doggy. I got to bring a little French bulldog, right? I got Frenchie, Twinkie. She likes to get out. Kathy puts her in her dress every once in a while. Don't judge me.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so that's what Kath and I try to do. You know, as empty nesters, we try to get out as much as we can, spend time together.
Are you guys? Would you consider yourselves dog people?
Yeah.
Are we moving? Is the Space Force now has to move from cat people to dog people? Is this what we're saying?
Yeah. So
I'm not really a cat person. We just happen to have cats.
Yeah. We are dog people. Yeah. You know, Kathy's considered getting a cat, but she's avoided it. I don't know what it is.
Probably, if you get one, you won't be dog people anymore because cats are awesome.
So it can convert me if
I don't know anyone that's ever gotten a cat that didn't go, oh, I had no idea cats were this awesome.
But have you had dogs?
Yeah, I had dogs my whole life. And I, like many quote unquote dog people, I thought cats suck. Like it's like this thing, like you just assume.
Yeah.
But then you end up with cats and you're like, this is better than watching TV. There's a reason why the internet isn't filled with dog videos.
Oh,
like cats are super interesting.
Have you ever seen a French bulldog on a skateboard?
Dude.
Kathy watches them all the time. She's convinced she can teach Twinkie how to ride a skateboard. I don't know.
You guys have fun with that. All right. So 15 September, you're going to take the reins and I'm going to sail into the sunset. And what's going through your head? What are you doing right now to kind of be ready for that day?
So, thinking about it's our opportunity for you and I to kind of pass that torch and pass the flag. But really it's about making sure I have a lot of family and friends that'll be, coming to the event. And I want to make sure that when I have an opportunity to speak, that I'm able to, in a short, pithy way, kind of give the thanks to the men and women, individuals in my life who helped me propel me to where I am today, kind of prepared me, if you will, and give a nod, thanks, right, of just a sheer significance, right, of what you've done for us. You have been the leader of the space operations, right, for us through Air Force Space Command, U.S. Space Command, and Combatant Command, and then standing up to service. You have very large shoes to fill. And I think it's an opportunity to kind of say, hey, Chief Towberman, you did a phenomenal job. And we owe where we are today to your dedication and your passion that you've shown. So, I think I owe to kind of give a nod to you on that and acknowledge that publicly, and echo what everyone else is feeling. Give thanks to the kind of individuals who helped me get to where I'm going. And kind of get off the stage. I'm not ready necessarily to talk about what my lines of effort, what my vision. I got to be in the seat for a little bit. Like you said, I've been here for a while, but I haven't been behind that desk. And as you've told us several times, and I'm learning over the next couple of weeks, there's no way really to talk about it until you experience it. So I'm holding off on that. But really, I want to get a chance. I'm hoping that as many guardians and airmen and individuals who have a passion for the Space Force come to the hangar and get an opportunity, right? Once we're done with all the, ceremonies, for you and I to get a chance to wander through the crowd and shake hands and talk to people, right? And hear what they have to say. I think those touch points, right, that we have an opportunity to do as chiefs as we travel around, those are such significant moments in our not only personal but our professional lives, because they plant the seeds of, hey, what do I need to go work on when I get back to the office? What are the things I need to focus on? And that's really where you get it. It's not briefings, right? It's not sitting in a windowless room somewhere. It's those one-on-one engagements, right? That's touch points with, guardians and their families, I think, to help shape at least what's in my head. So I'm looking forward to all that.
Yeah. No invite required, right? Like the hangar will be open.
That's right.
Everyone can go. And obviously, not everyone's in town, but for those folks that are in the NCR or can get to the NCR, we hope that we fill it up. Should be a good ceremony. Should be fun. When my ceremony, when I took the seat, it was in Secretary Barrett's office.
Yeah.
And we were all in masks, and it was 5 of us and a photographer. That was the whole thing. So this will be quite a different experience.
That's 3 April.
Pretty cool.
That's We're looking at that photograph is actually in the hallway here.
Yeah.
Of you during
my
that
bald
event.
spot.
Yeah.
You can see my bald spot.
You just had a really good haircut. I don't say it was a bald spot.
No, it's like it's shining in the photo. It's horrible. Yeah. But it was pretty cool. So no priorities, premature, but is there anything like what are you doing? Like, hey, this is what I want to be paying attention. This is how I think I'm gonna, like, for instance, are you like planning on traveling around? Are you planning on listening? Are you gonna, I think you're getting the Chiefs together on that day. Like, what's kind of, because the ceremony's at 10 a.m., so you'll get a little bit of a reprieve. But by 1 o'clock, it's game on, dude. Like, you got to be, there's work to do. So what's that look like?
So I think listening, is if I could encapsulate it, it would be I'm going to spend the next 90 days or 120 days listening. So the first opportunity will be, as you know, the SELs, airmen and guardians who are, have impact across the service will be in the NCR hopefully. And after the ceremony, we're in a rally for a couple of hours. And what I've asked, and Chief Childers, Chili, is going to spend some time with them on Thursday. But one of the things I asked them to do is, hey, when we get together, I want to sit and listen and say, hey, Chiefs, you're out in the field. You on a day-to-day basis, you're on the bases, you're in the operations centers, you know what we've been doing. A lot of initiatives are in motion right now, and asking for feedback to say, okay, what are the things that we need to focus on to put weight? What do I have to get across the finish line to finalize? What are the things that I should focus on championing? Right? Because as you know, there are certain things that only the Chief Master Sergeant of the Space Force can do. Right? We can delegate a lot of the stuff, but the office, the weight of the office, the influence of the office, there's only certain ways working with staff and other individuals. So it's to the chiefs. What do you need me to really put my weight behind to get across the finish line? Policies, processes, relationships, right? That allows everyone else to kind of continue to execute all the things that we've been talking about, all the things that we've been promising. How do I get things? How do I remove barriers for them? Because I can do so with the weight of the Chief Master Sergeant of the Space Force office. And that's going to be where I'm going to ask them to help. Hey, when I shape my calendar and, hey, where am I going to travel? What are the office calls I'm going to make? Help me figure that out, right? As a group, collective group. So that's what I think I'm going to wind up doing on that Thursday. And then, through the holidays, I'm looking forward. General Salsom and I, I've kind of chatted, as you know, to kind of get out and see some guardians and airmen and their families around Space Force bases and installations. So I'm looking forward to do that. But I know that, Kathy and I have talked about it. And like I said earlier, the travel is a key component to this. There's things I think that, as you know, we have to get done right in the NCR. But in order to bring back real feedback, real touch points, data for General Salzman and the team, it has to be unfiltered. And I can only get that if I'm on the road traveling. So I'm anticipating a lot of that.
Yeah, I think we say this a lot, that in the past, maybe leaders gave the answers, and now leaders have to ask the questions. So when you're listening, think through like the questions that you're going to ask that get you the best feedback. What I've learned is that if you just stand up and go, what's on your mind? You quickly can kind of lose sort of really important details and nuances that you need. And so spend time talking to yourself about, wait, what are the questions that I really need help answering, and my advice is to be as specific as possible on the travel thing. It'll be interesting to what you'll find is that there's this, you brought up that there's things that only you can do. Yeah. And so how do you find the balance between getting that real feedback? Because you're the only one that can get that firsthand, right? That direct touch point. You're the only one that can get that. But you're also the only one that can be in the room when a decision gets made, and it'll be like, wait a minute. So I remember years ago going through this kind of thinking through how you get this balance right, because if you spend all your time collecting information, it doesn't serve a purpose. But if you spend all of your time not, like if you spend all your time providing input, then it's going to be out of touch. And so
That's
how
right.
do you get that balance perfect? And I believe it will end up being one of the trickier things that you have to navigate. Do I have enough touch points that my input is relevant and accurate and helpful? And do I have enough touch points to give input that what I know doesn't go to waste? It's this interesting dance that I think a lot of people don't necessarily think about until you're kind of there.
Absolutely.
And then you're like, oh, now I know why every Tuesday I need to be in that room, because last Tuesday somebody decided that,
that's right,
whatever. And you're like, ugh. So let's talk about some of those things. So from the beginning, and this, we've had to stand up a service. Everybody else, and you will get this to some extent, although I would suggest you're still way more out of balance. But all of your counterparts, all of our counterparts in the other services, they kind of come into the position, and most everything, there's a thing happening, right? Like all of the parts of the ecosystem are growing. They might not be growing as well as you want, but everything's happening. Promotions, recruiting, training pipeline, PME, on and on and on. And so you can pick like a couple things and go, okay, I'm going to work on training, or I'm going to work on, recruiting. Well, when you can't do that, when you got to do everything from scratch, you sort of, you end up not being able to get things done that you really, that we wanted to get done. So like, where do you see us going with, say, we've been talking a lot lately, the promotion system that we initially launched for all the right reasons. We said, hey, you deserve to have time back. We don't want you spending your life studying for a test. We also don't really have the resources to put together tests, protect tests, administer tests, correct tests, have all these different versions. Like we don't even know what we test you on yet, because a lot of things aren't written down. And so we walked away from testing, and I think we stand by that. That was a good idea. We implement boards, and those are working okay, but we've had some real challenges with them. And at the lower grades in particular, what we're finding is that there isn't a body of work that's significant enough for a board to kind of look and go and make what we're confident are really, they're the best decisions based on what's in front of them. But it just isn't much of a story. So we've been talking a lot about, hey, do we go to a fully qualified system? So tell me kind of what you think about this, and where you think we are and where you think we might go. I'm just kind of curious from, I know my perspective. But
Well,
soon in 3 weeks, that's irrelevant.
Well, when we talked about why do we call the junior enlisted rank specialist, right? And we talked about that because your purpose in life as a guardian, right, is to learn your job, is become technical experts, right, and immerse yourself in that. And that was kind of the priority. So, when you talk about their body of work, really is how well are you doing at your job? What is your competence level? Are you leaning forward? Are you deciding that, hey, I'm going to apply to become an instructor or an evaluator? How well are you, right, envisioning, concepts and tactics? That's what we're looking, right, at. That should be the measure of, hey, are you ready for more responsibility, and do we reward you for that focus that you're doing? Now, obviously, right, all the other guardian stuff outside of that, right, but just focusing on work.
Right.
I think it is important as an operational service, so I think if we can carry that model forward, especially to the E5 grade, like we talked about, because that's really today where the first board is, right, for promotion up to E5. When we talk about the body of work, right, there isn't a whole lot there. There aren't a whole lot of performance reports, right, because we don't do it until later in the career. But I think if we continue to focus on the fact that As you develop and say your body of work is how well are you doing at your job? Are you leading the team that you're with operationally? Are you being innovative in the work that you're looking to do? I think fully qualified, at least specifically from E4 to E5, makes a lot of sense, because trying to, capture or look at maybe one performance report, which I think we're talking about performance report on an airman EPR form that we're still using. I don't think necessarily gives credit.
Which bums me out.
I know. Is the Air Force using those forms? I can't remember. No. But to the point about the promotions, I don't think that really allows us to evaluate what we've asked them to focus on as a junior enlisted guardian. So continuing that fully qualified mantra, specifically at E5, I think is a first step. I think we have to implement and look at that. And how do we make that fair and equitable across whether because the first couple of years we've been doing cyber intel or space operations. How do we make it fair and equitable and allow guardians to focus on being the best technician they can be, subject matter expert, and get rewarded for that? And then, do we look at that and we have a good base and say, okay, let's look at what E6 means, right? Because E6, right, as you talk about, the technical, the whole point of technical sergeant is because you can lead and you can execute your mission. You are the subject matter expertise at the weapon system, right, that we've actually execute, or at the intelligence function that you're providing for the unit that you're supporting or operating with. How do we measure those? I think the more we get the ecosystem to allow us to really tease that out, fully qualified promotions, I think, just makes a lot of sense.
And also, so right now, and fully qualified, sort of a term of art in the manpower personnel business, right? And so really this is, it's congruent with what we've been saying about competency-based talent management. It's just that fully qualified has a lot of time gates in most of the other services, and currently it has for us. But that is how you get from E1 to E4 as well, is through fully qualified. But if you can off ramp from the time components and in favor of competency components. In other words, if you can learn to do your job faster, why am I waiting to promote you just so you can hit a gate? If you can do that, then to our earlier conversation, now you can completely get rid of a below the zone promotion process, because there's no zone anymore. There's no time zone. Right. And if you can do that, now we're not competing against each other. In fact, if we could all get promoted, if 100% of the E3 cohort had access to being E4s as fast as they were actually qualified to do it, they might work as teams like you guys did to study and improve and get better. And then they all move forward faster. Like, that's what being a guardian would be, right? Like, that's a very Space Force way to kind of look at it. And if we do that, what else don't we have to do? Now, my performance report isn't tied to my promotion. It's not tied to my advancement. It's just about my performance. So maybe I have a supervisor that doesn't feel bad about giving me honest feedback. Maybe I can check my ego enough to say, hey, I've got a commitment to mastering myself. I actually want you to tell me the truth in my performance report so that I can get better. And it doesn't matter, because it's not going to, quote unquote, hurt me if you tell me the truth. Like, there's so many advantages to this. And it's really about how quickly you can kind of lock it in from a policy perspective. But my fingers are crossed. I don't have any regrets, like it's not a word that I like to use. I certainly don't think it could happen too fast. I think we've gone through, we iterated on a few different ways of doing this. This is the right way to go forward, and we just got to get there as fast as you can get us there. I think there's just so many different ways. This is awesome for us.
And and when we had the feedback from the board who did the E5 board, they talked about that. There wasn't a whole lot when we think about how we normally do records reviews and boards, right? There's a body of work. But when we did it for the E4 to E5, it just wasn't there. And, to the point, right? Is it, is that equitable? Is that fair to the guard? Are we measuring or what we've told them to focus on the last couple of years? Because especially when you talk about a lot of the classified work that we do, right? So you can have an Intel operator who's doing all this phenomenal stuff operationally, maybe can't get captured in an EPR, right? That a board gets a chance to see. But if you go to fully qualified and we kind of shape that this is for you as an Intel operator, right, who's doing signals. These are the things I expect of you to be fully qualified to become a sergeant in the United States Space Force. I just think that's a clearer goal, and to your point, then you're not competing against, one another. You're competing against the standard to make you a better guardian.
Right. Competing against who you were yesterday.
Yeah.
There's winning.
That's right.
Yeah.
They said like a lot of things, right? The ecosystem, there's a lot of things we have to kind of work through. But I think that is definitely, after the conversations, that's definitely where we're going. It's funny. You talk about little stories, right, about our history. The weight of this discussion, I think we talked about it before, but I think this last push to where we are today, because we talked a little bit about this at the EFDP, where we were on the plane. It was me, you, and Chief Childers were flying back from somewhere on a plane, and instead of putting on our noise canceling headphones,
we're shouting over the noise.
Yeah, and we're taking notes on little pieces of paper, and that's kind of where this initiative, right, finally said, you said, hey, I'm tired of waiting. We talked about this before. We kind of nudged it out over a couple hours on the plane, and like a day or two later, right, went to S1D, and we had a discussion at the Enlisted Force Development Panel with Mr. Turner.
Yeah,
right. So, that's a little nuanced story right there.
So hopefully, hopefully it goes quick. The other thing that I know is important to you because of our previous life together, but we've got the ideal, we've got the spirit. We still don't have kind of that next layer, and I've always been a little bit torn because on one hand, I appreciate the sort of desire to continue to drill down and go, okay, like I can read this, and then I can read the next level of detail, but I want to know, like me, like very specifically, how does this apply to me, and how do I amplify the guardian spirit as a specialist, as a sergeant, and so I've always been torn because I appreciate that. I understand people want that. At the same time, I continue to say that the single greatest single-page document I've seen in 33 years is the Guardian Commitment, and that those 12 promises from team member and those 12 promises from team leader, like if all any of us did was made and kept those 24 promises, there's nothing else. Like you don't need anything else, right? But how do I do that? What's the granularity? Can you help me out a little bit with the tradecraft? So I appreciate that. So I think getting a handbook published, I'm guessing, we haven't really talked about this, but that there's a couple, there's some drafts that are bouncing around. It's something that we know is important. But I've got a feeling that this is really important to you because you like handbooks. So what do you think?
So, we've had several discussions on this, and you're right. There is a desire from the field, right, from the Guardians that we've spoken to about that document, right? Continue the evolution, right, from the Guardian Ideal, the Guardian Spirit. I think some documentation, right, but it still has to be a little broad, right? I don't think that we are ready yet, or maybe we'll never be, but we're not a checklist service, right? Yeah. Guardians need to be innovative, free thinking. They got to be comfortable with constant change. That's the service that we are. And that's what it means to be a Guardian, to be able to be comfortable in those zones.
Right. But maybe it means, but maybe being comfortable as a specialist is a little bit different than being comfortable as a senior NCO. And I think that's what kind of people are like, well, what does it mean to be innovative?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't maybe mean the same thing as an E3 as it means as an E8. And so what are you telling me? Like, help me understand this a little bit better as I sort of transition from primarily. The other thing we talked about on the plane that day, now that you bring it up and I'm thinking about it, is we talked about how simple a performance report could be if you use those 12 promises as your guideposts, and you just sort of move as you increase in responsibility. You move from 80% team member promises and 20% team leader promises that you're being evaluated on to 80% team leader and 20% team member, because we're always both, but you're kind of moving.
That's right.
And so I think that's where this enlisted guardian, or whatever we call the next chapter, but that's where we want, hey, this is what we want from specialists, this is what we want from NCOs.
And I think even in my, because of the way that we're evolving, even the handbook that is written and published, if we publish something in 2024, the guardians of today will continue to write that book, and it'll have to be updated. We're not mature enough yet to kind of slap the table and say, okay, for perpetuity, right? Perpetuity, this is what it's going to be. It's an evolving thing. I've been asked a question, hey, Chief, what is our culture? And I go, well, you tell me. You're the guardian living it every day. When you go into your ops floor, you go into your office, what you do, what you say, how you act, that's the culture. I can't tell you that.
That is, in fact, if we mandate or direct the culture, then that is the culture. Then the culture is, you'll be directed to do everything. Everything will be mandated. And we know we don't want that.
Nope.
And so this whole, angel within the stone speech that I've given over and over and over, this Michelangelo concept, like, it's real. And when you see guardians, especially young ones, they know, why you joined the service. You know what you were moving towards. You know what we were saying was resonating with you.
Yeah.
And I say, trust that.
Yeah.
Like when you're at a junction in the road, take the path that you feel you're supposed to be taking. And that if you can trust yourself, I trust you, because I think you came to the team like for the right reasons. And so we'll get there. I think it's Air Force Sergeants Association. It was a great group. I know you weren't there, and you missed it. But what you'll see next time is just this incredible taste of this pure guardian experience. It was just such a cool Space Force thing. And as we were moving kind of back and forth between what the Air Force was doing down the hall and what we were doing, it was clear, like I've said many times, right? Like, not better, but more suitable for us. It definitely felt different. It was in orange, right? And if you went down into the Air Force spaces, you felt very much like, hey, this is for airmen, about airmen. This is an Air Force conference, and it felt like that. But if you were in our space, you're like, oh, this doesn't feel like that other place at all. This is completely different. And that, to me, is victory, right? Like, success is, are we allowing ourselves to have this experience that's teachable, learnable, knowable, that this is, and that's how the CSO explains it, right? Like, that's the guardian spirit. Like, you just know it when you see it. If you were in that room at AFSA, that's what you saw. That's what you felt. Good. And it was super cool.
I'm glad.
couple things real quick. We're mostly because I just want to get the word out, not so much that you and I need to talk about it, but we're about to stand up our Space Force Honor Guard. Super excited about that. They will be they'll be fully up and functional for our change responsibility. So very excited to kind of, that'll be their first big public event, but that ceremony here is very soon, and the CSO and I are going over to he's going to swear them in, and we're going to shake hands. But so we will have a Space Force Honor Guard. The policy governing all of that is to be written. This is an initial cadre that's taken from the cohort that's currently serving as Air Force Honor Guardsmen. So they're transferring or they're about to transfer. They've been selected. But certainly that will be opportunity that's available to everyone else. And we will, starting in FY24, start recruiting directly into Honor Guard like all the other services. And so that's awfully neat. I think that's kind of the only big news. I'm not tracking, we're still handing out the hardware for the HHA pilot. Are you in that pilot?
I am.
So that's awesome. How's it going?
It's actually, I really enjoy it. It kind of motivates me. Like I said, I ride and kind of work out, as it is, but the fact now that I can kind of track and kind of see what my metrics are, and I have freedom of choice, right? Whether I want to run, whether I want to bike. I did go running the other day, by the way. My back was killing me after that, but having an opportunity to do that and to be able to kind of track it, and having the interface, and it's so simple on my personal phone, is really helpful. The only thing, it's kind of funny, I'm a Peloton rider. Yes, I'm part of the Peloton cult. Well, the Garmin doesn't connect to my Peloton, but my Apple Watch does. So the first 1 or 2 rides after I got the Garmin, I'm trying to ride with 2 watches on, and it just felt awkward, right? Having 2 watches to kind of track. But I was able to get the heart rate monitor, the strap for the Garmin. So now I just wear the strap to get my CFA, and then my Apple to kind of get my Peloton points. But I really enjoy it. I think it's the right answer when you talk about continuous fitness, right? Because then it gives me weekly and monthly goals, right? To let me know, am I exercising? Am I dedicating, investing in the time to be physically fit? And not only physically fit, but the time when I'm running or riding does a lot for me emotionally as well. It allows me to disconnect. It allows me to kind of think about some things, or it gives me some space. So in my personal, there's a lot of benefits to the process we're going through. And I think the gear has been really, really helpful. I think once or twice I've gone someplace that wasn't like an Air Force accredited skiff facility where I've taken it off. But for the most part, I have my memo. I freely walk around most spaces. It's not an issue. But like we talked about, it's not really meant to be. It's not tracking me every day, right? Yeah. I mean, it's when I'm purposely exercising. Though I would say that, some of my meetings with you, I think I do get my heart rate does kind of go up.
So I'm not part of the study because I don't have enough time left. But there are many, many times when my gear says, "Oh, you had a workout." I'm like, "No, I was just in another meeting in the Pentagon."
That's right.
And you just think I was working out. But I think I like the choice. I think it's important. It's easy. What this is really unlocking, we hope, when the pilot's done, when the study's done, and we learn everything we learn, and we really have a service policy that says this is how fitness is going to work, then what we hope is that this ancient tradition of military excellence, which is you train as a team, like every great military throughout all of history has done physical training together.
Yep.
Well, but what we know now today is that I can train together, quote unquote, by being connected virtually. Even out, I don't even have to be doing it at exactly the same time.
Right.
For all of us as a community, as a team, as a squad, as a unit, fill in the blank, that I can participate and get most of the benefits of group exercise on my own kind of with options for me. And so in many ways, this is going to look so different than what everyone else is doing. And in a couple important ways, it'll be doing it will give us many of the same benefits of everyone report to the parade ground at 0600 for roll call. And so hopefully if we get it right, you get the best of both worlds.
I mean, and right, back when we were airmen, right, and there was a lot of mandatory, depending on your fitness level, that really wasn't exercise for you, right? It was about camaraderie, spirit of corps, connection, which is all great. But depending on your fitness level, if that was your workout for the day, a lot of times I felt that I missed a workout because the run or whatever we did to calisthenics just wasn't enough for me because of my personal fitness. Now there were other individuals that they were wiped, which is fine. We're all different, right? But what this allows us to do, right? Individually, we're only competing against ourselves, right? And to kind of get the mets we got to do. But I do think, right, there's still some benefit to the group activity, but it doesn't really make you healthy.
No, it's really hard to, especially large groups. It's very difficult. As I've been a trainer at different points in my life, and it's really, really hard to get the pace and the intensity, all the variations in people's limitations and the way they move and all those things. It's just really, really difficult to train a group effectively. But if you don't train as a group, like you said, you lose the esprit de corps, you lose. So if you can gamify, and this is how some of these companies that are doing this, right? If you can gamify the activity so that I do feel like I'm in a group, but I'm allowed to control the intensity and the medium of my exercise around my desires, around my physical abilities, around perhaps injuries, maybe I can get the best of both worlds. I mean, that's really what we hope. So we'll see. Dude, we are out of time. So
wow, that went fast.
Yeah, good conversation goes fast. I don't know if it'll, like the people listening, they're like, it didn't seem like it was going fast to us. It seemed like a couple old dudes blabbering on. But
who are you calling old?
Yeah, me. But thanks, man. Congratulations. And we're not going to arm wrestle today, but I'm going to shake your hand and I'm going to say I couldn't be happier with where we're going and who I'm handing the keys to the castle. And I've been there for every single brick we've laid. It's really important to me. So I'm happy that you're the guy that's getting the keys. And
thank you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
For everybody else, I assume you're going to keep these going, you think?
Yeah. I think, I talked to the team about it. I think there's a lot of benefit to the medium. We'll see how the feedback I get from how I performed today. Like I said, this is my first one.
Give us your comments. If it sucks,
right.
tell them how to fix it.
Maybe the guardians are like, don't do that anymore, Chief. We're good.
Yeah.
We'll see.
But other than that, remember, this is when we're closest. This was Perigee episode 27. Yep. Thanks for what you do. Appreciate you.